Alright, hello there guys, it's Mercy and welcome back to another product review, and today I'll be doing a review on the Razer Deathadder V3 wired. Now, this review was supposed to came out 5 days ago, I think on the 13th of July, but I sold the mouse, and then when I finally got to editing the video, it came out corrupted. It was black screen and there was nothing on the video itself, so I didn't actually release the video for the Deathadder V3 wired. But fortunately, one of my viewers actually reached out to offer his own Deathadder V3 wired for me to do a review on, and I truly appreciate that. I feel like that is something that I cannot take for granted. It is an amazing experience to be able to get this kind of, well, experience, of course. Now, per my usual disclaimer, this one actually did get sent out by my viewer, but just like my normal disclaimer, I actually bought this with my own money back when I did my original testing and review period. So Razer did not send this out to me or anything, so any opinion that will come up from this video is my honest opinion only. Now, before we start with all of the shapes, size, build quality and whatnot, we're just going to talk about the specification, so I can just put that out of the way because I don't think it's that important. Now, we are still rocking the Razer Pro 30K optical sensor, the Gen 3 switches, 58 grams on the specification. I'll put the dimension on screen somewhere here as well, and we'll jump straight into the shape itself. Now, we'll skip the packaging because again, I already sold it and he just sent me the mouse, so I don't have any packaging to show, but it's basically like a very eco-friendly packaging. Now, the shape in itself is basically a completely different shape compared to original Deathadder that I've tried in the past. Now, for context again, my first ever gaming mouse was the Razer Deathadder 2013. So it's easy to say that I'm actually quite familiar with the Deathadder shape itself. I've tried a lot of different iterations: the Deathadder 2013, the Chroma, the Elite, the V2, the Essential. So I've tried a lot of Deathadder in the past, and they all basically have almost the same shape, aside for the V2 being less flared on the side. But the V3 itself is literally just Deathadder by name. This thing is a completely different shape. So if you are coming to the V3 expecting it will be a smooth transition from the V2, I think you still need to adapt it a little bit because it is extremely different. Now, the specification for this puppy is that the length is 128mm, the width, the widest point on the width here is 68mm, and then the highest peak, which is towards the back here, is 44mm. So it is quite a big boy. Now, I have a 19 by 10.5 centimeter hands, and even then, I still feel like if you want to palm this mouse, it is extremely comfortable, but I couldn't really find a kind of like a comfortable grip for me to claw this thing, unlike the V2. So basically, I think this is purely preference, but being someone who grew up with the original Deathadder shape, I just prefer that one way more. But I think if you are coming coming to the Deathadder with looking for a comfortable ergonomic mouse, I think the V3 is a really solid choice for that thing alone. It is extremely nice comfort wise. It is very tall, meaning that if you want to palm, you can just really sit your hand naturally there. The curve to the right side here is very neutral as well, if you guys can see, and there is still a ledge to assist you with picking it up, so I never find that to be an issue at all. So yeah, I would say the shape, if you have like hands around my size or smaller, clawing this would be amazing. If you have bigger hands like 20 or even 21, then maybe clawing would be really good. I think you could probably still claw the Deathadder V3 even on my hand size, but I just don't prefer it. I prefer clawing something else that I already own on the table. And just for size comparison, here is my Razer Viper Mini Wireless, just to give you guys an idea of how big the mouse is. There we go. And here is the Dharma Shark M3, another big boy, and still another mouse that I didn't really use for competitive because I don't prefer these larger sizes mouse, and of course it's really hard to tell them on camera because they're so black. But yeah, so shape wise, that's literally it. It's a Deathadder by name. Reminds me a lot of Zowie EC1. I think it's slightly smaller or slightly bigger. I think it's either one of those, but yeah, really good, comfortable, ergonomic shape. Now, the build quality of this mouse is really solid. There's barely any creak, there's no rattling, there's no flexing, and there isn't any noticeable mouse button wobble. Pre and post travel is very minimal, and M1 and M2, and the side button is again, just like the Deathaders from before this, and really good experienced side buttons, just very clicky, very big, and again very minimal pre and post travel. So I'll say the build quality on my QC is solid, and this QC is solid as well. Now the texture is really good. So the only point of comparison I have right now, unfortunately, is the Razer Viper Mini, and this feels a lot like PBT, very coarse, kind of like rough texture-y feeling to it. And I kind of don't like it because once my hands sweat, this thing is very slippery. It's not fun to use in game. That's why grip tapes is mandatory for me to play well on the Viper Mini. And I think the Deathadder V3 Pro and the Viper V2 Pro both have pretty much similar coating, maybe a bit more rougher, but the V3 Wired, sorry, have a very smooth coating to it. Reminds me a lot of endgame gear coating, but just not as sticky. The grip here is amazing. Look at that. Okay, there we go. You can see my fingerprint there. I'm just trying to drag it because it really tries to grip your finger on the texture itself. I really like it. It's not the most clean looking surface, especially after you use it for a while. You know, your grease gonna get picked up, but comparing this to like the Dormo Shark M3 coating, I would pick the Deathadder V3 coating all day because it's just way grippier, way texture than the M3 coating over here. Next, I want to talk about the button. So this is using the Gen 3 optical switches, and out of all the Gen 3 optical switches that I've tried, the Cobra, the Viper V2 Pro, and now the Deathadder V3, I would say the V3 actually feels probably one of the best in the hand. Again, there's barely any pre and post travel, but yeah, very nice click to it, very nice actuation, and because it's an optical switches, there won't be any chance of double clicking, and the latency will be extremely low. There's a lot of people already do testing in terms of millisecond latency for the clicks, and it is incredibly low. Now the scroll wheel, I think they changed this from the wireless itself. Again, I cannot really tell just using the wired one by itself. It is an incredibly smooth experience. So if you like something loud, bit more tactile, you won't really find it on the V3 wired. It's a lot more smooth. I can still feel my steps, like distinguish them in game, but I prefer something a little bit more kind of loud, actually, something a little bit more rougher than this. This feels quite smooth, so if you do a lot of web browsing while gaming, I think this is a perfect balance between both of those things as well. Now middle click is very light, very easy to spam. I use this for push to talk, and I don't find them to be an issue at all, so really solid there. And these side buttons, again, just like I said on the build quality part, very solid, very clicky, very loud, and yeah, again, very minor post travel, very minor pre travel. It just feels really solid, and I wish all side buttons are implemented this well. Now let's talk about the performance, then we'll just move on to the other thing. This thing is using the Focus Pro 30K optical sensor with up to 8000 Hz polling rate, and I've tried 1000 Hz, 4000 Hz, 8000 Hz, and I can say, I don't know if it's a placebo or my system does not meet the requirement at all, I can barely tell the difference. Like playing on 8K, it feels smoother, but I don't know if that's placebo. But yeah, I cannot tell the difference between 1000, 4000, 8000 Hz in terms of like really looking for it, which means that if maybe, you know, I only have a 144 Hz monitor, and my CPU, I mean my computer isn't really the highest spec computer out there, so that could be an issue. But if you guys have tried 4000 or 8000 Hz polling rate, and if you guys have actually experienced or noticed something with the performance, let me know down in this comment section below. I would love to talk to you guys about it. Alright, before I was really interrupted by my own camera, but yeah, as I was talking about 4K wireless on the Thunderbolt M1 Level 3, I really didn't feel any difference from 1K or 4K, but on that mask, since it's wireless, the battery consumption is crazy. But because this thing is wired, and as long as your computer can handle it, I would just recommend you to put it on 8000 Hz polling rate to get the better performance, since you already paid for them now. So yeah, I think performance wise, just like every other Razer sensor out there that has been trusted by many pros, it's extremely solid. Low lift-off distance, flicking, tracking, everything feels very accurate, and yeah, I don't think you have to be worried at that point at all. Now, because we're talking about performance and 8K, we have to talk about the cable, and this is probably the part where I kind of is a little bit disappointed on the Razer Deathadder V3 wired. Now, I have to be honest, now it's not connected to a bungee because again, I just plugged this in just to do my review on, but when I was using a bungee, it still feels like I have some cable on here. It's very thick, very stiff cable, but I think legally you have to make it this thick because again, 8,000 hertz polling rate. Yeah, it's a little bit disappointing, but I kind of got used to the cable. It's not the best one that I felt, but if I want to compare this to like the cable on the Viper Mini, for example, I think this cable is way better. But yeah, again, the cable is the only part, and because of the cable as well, the weight balancing is actually slightly front heavy, but it's very minor. Like, look, you can probably see it tilting forward a little bit, but again, it's so minor that I don't think it really matters. And again, it weighs 58 grams on this specification and on my skill, so pretty solid there. Now the mouse feet in itself, it's smiling at you, look. Hello. But yeah, the mouse feet, now I didn't try it on the AC2 Sakura here. Most of my time on the Deathadder V3 is actually spent on the eSport Tiger glass pad and the Pulsar ES1. And what I can say is on the glass pad, because it's very thick, it feels very smooth, very buttery, and it didn't have that very annoying scrapiness to it that I kind of noticed after a while on some of my other mouse pad. Maybe because it's not fully worn yet, but I would say my experience on the glass pad is actually very nice. And on the ES1, it feels very smooth, not scratchy at all, and it's more towards the slightly controlled side of things for skates wise. But I think if you're using this mouse, I don't really feel like you have to swap the skates at all. It's extremely solid for stock skates. Now I want to talk about value. Now Razer is listing this at $70. In Malaysia, you can somehow find this for 220. That's what I got it for because of the sale price, but without sale it's about 300 ringgit. And at 300 ringgit, I think if you want to value performance for value, this is really solid. $70, 8K hertz wireless, sub 60 grams, Razer's build quality, Razer's sensor performance, the switches. Like, it is an incredible value. I think it's probably one of the best $70 wired gaming mouse you can buy. Like, if you need a wired ergonomic mouse, I think you can just go for the Deathadder V3 and be happy with it. Now the shape, again, for me personally, I prefer something a little bit smaller just because that's my preference. But if I really have to force myself to use this, I can 100% see myself maining the Deathadder V3. It is really good, just not what I prefer, and especially since I have so many smaller mice option, I would just gravitate toward these more than the Deathadder V3. But again, if you don't have any of small mice and you use medium to large mouse anyway, I think the Deathadder V3 is an incredibly solid mouse. I don't think I have left anything out from the video. I think I've said everything I need to say, and that's about it. Yeah, pretty much I think Deathadder V3 is just like, the Deathadder is just name only. It's not the same Deathadder you're gonna expect if you're coming from an older Deathadder like me, but if you're willing to give it a chance, I think it is a better mouse than those older Deathadder. Just better specs, better weight, and better build in my opinion. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thumbs up if you do, thumbs down if you don't like it. Both feedback actually helps me out a lot. If you have any question regarding the Deathadder V3, please leave down in the comment section down below. I'll answer them as fast as I can, as soon as I can. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.